It has been 1 year since I finished my cancer treatment, and I'm so glad that it is out of the way. But I wanted to make sure that some of the tips that I learned over the last year could help other people too. When I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, I was extremely shocked. It wasn't genetic, and I had only ever found a lump once, and all of a sudden I was having a mastectomy, chemotherapy, and radiation. And as much as the doctors were amazing and the nurses were amazing, they really helped more with pain management and not necessarily with practical tips. So I reached out to breast cancer survivors that I knew growing up, and also to people on Instagram such as Taryn Southern to help find some information about what would help me survive these treatments. None of these things are sponsored, but they are all things that helped me get through cancer treatment. I don't know if they'll work for you, but I do really believe that they worked for me. First off, cold capping. Now, it's not something that a lot of people know a lot about. When I first heard about cold capping, it was from Taryn Southern. She gave me some advice about it, and I had to make a decision about whether or not to buy an expensive wig or to do cold capping. It is something that has a lot of pros and cons. The pros are that I managed to keep some of my hair, not a lot. If I'd had thicker hair, I think I probably would have kept more, but I kept patchy hair. In spaces, but I still lost a lot of hair. The good thing is that it grew back quite quickly. Within 2-3 months, I already had the level of a pixie cut because my hair follicles were healthier. So I do believe that it helped my hair growth. I now have quite thick, almost shoulder length hair 1 year later, so for me, cold capping worked. The cons of cold capping, there's quite a few. Getting chemotherapy, I didn't find it actually that painful to have the treatment, but the cold capping was hard. If Josh hadn't been there to change the cold caps every 25 minutes, it wouldn't have worked. So you have to be at a hospital that allows cold capping, which it does take a lot of equipment. You have to be somewhere where there's dry ice, because you have to freeze these cold caps down to -25 and keep them cold throughout your day. It takes about 8 hours of wearing this thing on your head, and it feels a bit like an ice cream headache. So you have to be prepared for that, you have to have a partner who's ready to support you, and you have to be in a hospital that allows it. The second thing I want to talk about is mouth sores. Now, I didn't really have mouth sores that badly because of the type of chemo treatment that I was on, but I did have them for 1 week, and they were brutal. The thing that helped me, I feel, was I did coconut oil pulling. So you swish some coconut oil in your mouth for about 10 minutes, and then you do a saltwater rinse afterwards, and it did seem to help me not get any more mouth sores after that if I did that daily. Not 100% sure if that's the reason why they went away, but it might have. I'll also link below this Chinese remedy that a friend of mine used for her mouth sores, and it seemed to really help her. I bought it, but I never had to use it. And one more thing that helped me with my mouth sores is to freeze grapes. They're a great snack, and if you put a frozen grape in the freezer and then put it in your mouth and suck on it, definitely relieves the pain. The next thing I'm going to talk about is nail polish. It's important to find a chemical-free nail polish that you can use on your nails to help protect them from UV rays because you become photosensitive after you have had chemotherapy. A lot of people actually do a form of cold capping on their hands and their toes. They put a glove on that's really, really cold to try to keep their nails from falling off. Thankfully, my nails didn't fall off. I painted them each week and they seemed fine. I did get some bubbling and like discoloration on my toenails, but whew, they stayed. Moisturizer is your friend. You become really dry during chemotherapy and you need to keep moisturizing as much as possible. And even more so, it's important when you're going through radiation. You want to moisturize constantly when you're going through radiation. This helps you to not have contraction if you have already had an expander put in. And my skin actually stayed quite healthy. And the secret moisturizer that I used is called calendula. When I brought that to my doctor, she said she had read amazing studies about calendula. So I used calendula every day, multiple times a day. And they said even after my 25 rounds that my skin was looking pretty good. It still burnt a few weeks later, peeled a little bit, but it definitely made a difference. Also, when I was at the plastic surgeon's office, one of the nurses told me that a girl actually was bathing in the calendula flower tea. So I didn't get a chance to try that, but it might be a really good idea. Speaking of bathing in beautiful flowers or calendula tea, I really do believe that one of the things that helped me get through my cancer treatment was turning the bathroom where I was staying into a bit of a spa. Your head is just so exhausted from everything that's going on, and you ache a lot from some of the things that they give you, like your joints start to ache and your body just is sore. So I would run a bath, or Josh would run me a bath, and we would put in Epsom salts. I would take the flowers that people had given me and like sprinkle the petals in, and I would go on Spotify or YouTube and go to a spa playlist and light some candles. And that was such a relaxing way to deal with my cancer treatment. I really, really recommend that you take the time to do that and not just stay in bed. So earlier we talked about cold capping and how even during the cold capping process, you look pretty rough. I was extremely patchy and looked a little bit scary. So I wanted to cover it, but I couldn't use a wig because you weren't allowed to have something really tight against your head while you're cold capping because it needs to be able to breathe. So my solution to that was hat wigs. The first hat wig I ever bought was on Amazon. I think it was around $25 and it was great. I loved it. They had tons of different styles of hats, lots of different colors and lots of lengths, and it looked really realistic. The problem with the hat wigs is that because they weren't real hair, they didn't last very long, just a couple of weeks before they got very ratty. One of the solutions that my mother and I came up with was to buy a really nice hat. I bought one at Aritzia, and then order real hair extensions and sew them in. This just made my life so much easier because I could just take it on, take it off whenever I want, and when I was in public, I never felt weird at all. I felt really comfortable, and even through the summer, my head breathed really well because I was able to have a straw hat. The hair was just around the outside, not the whole head, and I never really got too hot. So definitely recommend hat wigs, and I've even seen really cute like beanie style ones, so lots of cool ones out there. The next thing I'm going to talk about is microblading. I have never had my eyebrows microbladed before, and I've always been really picky about my eyebrows. I don't know if it's because I'm a photographer and I feel like eyebrows frame the face so much, but I was really afraid to get it done. But I'm so glad that I did it. You have to have it done 2 weeks before your chemotherapy in order for it to heal in time. So take that in mind, and I'm also so thankful to the spa in Kelowna that sponsored me and gave me my microblading as a gift. I'll link them below, so if you are in British Columbia, you could get it done there. Now, when I first got it done, it was a bit like I was a Disney villain. I didn't really love it, and Josh was a bit scared of me. But I am really glad that I had it done because as my eyebrows fell out, which was really soon, I think they fell out within 2 weeks of my cancer treatment, I didn't really notice a huge change in my face right away. And when I went out, people really didn't think, oh, she's obviously going through cancer treatment. It was very normal. I could go on a date with Josh and felt, between my hat wig and my eyebrows being done, I felt pretty normal. A word that I was introduced to during my cancer treatment was something called neutrophils, and really it just has to do with how healthy your blood is because they want to make sure that you can handle having your chemo treatment at its assigned time. One way that I was able to keep my blood healthy was by drinking buckwheat water. I boiled buckwheat for about 20 minutes, strained it, and then drank that water, and every week my blood counts were great. I never had to miss a treatment, so I do believe that it helped me. One thing that Josh and I decided to do when I was diagnosed with cancer was that we were gonna go vegan throughout the duration of the treatment. Now, we have never been vegan. I have always been a meat eater and loved being a meat eater, but I do believe that being vegan throughout it really helped me. For one, I think that it kept me from being too nauseous or getting sick a lot because a lot of the things that trigger nausea during chemo treatment is fried foods or fatty foods or your body not being able to digest foods very easily. So being vegan, I think, just made a difference on that level. We're no longer vegan anymore, but we do try to incorporate it into our diets at least once or twice a week. The other thing that was a game changer for me that I really believed kept me from getting sick during my treatment was my relief band. Josh and I were with clients in French Polynesia a couple of years ago, and most of our clients on the boat were using this band called a relief band. What it is it sends a little electrical signal to your brain that tells you not to get nauseous or sick. And it really helps you with seasickness, can also help you with morning sickness, and right on the box it says chemotherapy treatment. So when we found out that I was going to have to go through this treatment, we decided to order one, and it was a lifesaver. I don't know about how everyone's journey is, but I never got nauseous. I never puked once, and I was on what they call the Red Devil, which is a pretty intense chemotherapy treatment. I would just turn up my relief band if I started feeling a little bit weird, and it made a huge difference for me. So it's not sponsored, but if you have the chance to try it, it might really make your life easier. The last thing I want to talk about is finding something outside of your cancer treatment to focus on. Josh and I really wanted to try to find some joy in our life, so we came up with some things that we could do outside that wasn't in either the hospital or in the bedroom where I was sleeping most of the time. So we would go out and we would cross-country ski. That was a lot of fun in the Canadian wilderness throughout the winter. And the other thing that we decided to do was a van conversion. So I didn't get to do a lot of it, obviously. It was something that Josh was able to do to distract himself from what I was going through and to get him outside of the house. He would work on the van, and then when I was feeling up to it, I could go outside, see the progress, maybe help a little bit. And it just gave us some hope and something to look forward to so that we weren't constantly just thinking about cancer. So I really do think that as a couple, having something that you can both work on or a project that makes you excited for the future can definitely help the situation. I'm also so grateful that I had Josh because he kept things light. He helped me through the whole treatment, made me laugh, made the nurses laugh. Between him and my parents, it was so much easier to get through chemotherapy treatment. And I know not everybody has that kind of support system, but if you can find people, find groups, find people that you can talk to, it really, really makes a difference. So those are my tips for helping me survive my cancer treatment. I really hope that you never have to use them, but if you do ever have to use it, or if you have friends that are going through something like this, feel free to share. DM me if you have any questions, and yeah, thank you for listening.